Well, hello and welcome to our Unlock Your Best Yes decision making with clarity and confidence. I am Stacy Faust, and I'm really excited that you guys are here today. I hope that you had a chance to watch our previous webinar on human design type and strategy, because understanding your type, your strategy, your authority, and human design, these are all like the first layer to truly getting into alignment with who you are. And these are so helpful in navigating your life. I do want to make one correction. Like if I say something wrong, I'm always going to come back and tell you. But in the last webinar, this is for generators and manifesting generators, I talked a lot about following what lights you up or responding to what lights you up. And that's important, but it's only half the picture. It's just as important to follow what brings you satisfaction. So it may not light you up to do the laundry or wash the dishes, but it can be satisfying. And those things bring you energy as well. And so I just wanted to clarify that, because if you only follow what lights you up, that's not going to help you energetically. So just wanted to put that out there for you guys. Okay, so let's talk about authority. Authority is how we are wired to make decisions. And this can be business decisions, life decisions, relationship decisions. This works for all of your decisions. And I'm really so excited about this webinar, because this is the one area in my human design that made the biggest difference in my life. And I feel like I was just able to take my power back. I'm no longer living with uncertainty or anxiety all the time, especially when it comes to making decisions, because I know now where to make these decisions from. And this is one of the areas that we can easily get conditioned, because there's so much misinformation out there on how to do decision making. And really, the funny thing is, the number one place we are taught to make decisions from is the number one place we are not to be making our decisions from, and that is our minds. So let me give you a little background on why that is. And I'm going to go to my nerdy space here for just a minute, so hang in there. But during the Age of Enlightenment, like the 17th, 18th century, there was this shift towards mind-based decision making. And then around the beginning of the 19th century, with the industrialization age and modern education systems, society increasingly just valued analytical thinking as the correct way to make decisions. Business and science reinforced that idea that weighing out the pros and cons and looking at the data were more reliable than our gut instincts or our inner knowing. However, our minds are not reliable, and neither is the data 100% correct for us, because there's just too many variables for each of us individually. When you think about it, in human design, there's 7 billion combinations. And so there's about that many people on the planet. So what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for another. So the reason our minds are not reliable is that they get programmed from a very early age. Like from 0 to 7, we are taking in all the information, all the data, all the energy from the environments that we live in. And so our brains are really easily programmable at this age, and not all of the info, data, and energy is correct for us. And so first of all, our minds are storytellers. They're not a guide for decision making. Our minds are great at analyzing. They're great at questioning and creating narratives based on past experiences or based on our fears or our conditioning, but our minds cannot access our deeper truth. And secondly, our minds tend to overthink. Anybody do analysis by paralysis? There's this looping or second guessing or making choices based on fear rather than from our alignment. And then third, our minds seek external validation. Society has trained us to make smart decisions based on logic or other people's expectations or what other people think is best. And this kind of pulls us away from our authentic path. And then we get off track in our life as well. So there is a better way. What would it be like for you to make decisions that are right for you all of the time? No more second guessing, no more apologizing. What a time saver that would be, and what an energy saver, right? So Each one of us has an inner authority. Let's call it body intelligence that works way better than our mind intelligence. And there's 7 different ways this body intelligence shows up for us. And the great news is you only have 1 out of the 7. So just to make it simple, you're only going to make decisions one way. Now, this is where everyone's like, wait a minute. So you mean my husband, my kids, my parents, we all make decisions differently? And that is a big yes. So you may want to pull a chart on them as well and just kind of follow along, because it can make a big difference in helping your kids, helping other people make decisions, or deconditioning yourself from how they made decisions or how they taught you to make decisions. Because this is where I got conditioned by my well-meaning parents. My mom was a mental projector, and she was always wanting to talk things out. My dad is an emotional projector, and he always needed to sleep on his bigger decisions. I am a splenic manifester. So to talk it out or to sleep on it only confuses me more and creates more uncertainty in my life. And when I finally figured this out, changed my life, you guys. So our body intelligence is, first of all, it's connected to our truth, whether that's our gut, our emotions, our intuition, our voice, among other things. And it's really wired to guide us towards decisions that are correct for us. Not what makes sense on paper, not what makes sense to anyone else for that matter. It's really designed for us to make decisions that are right for only us. Secondly, this truth creates ease because we don't have to overthink anymore. So when you follow your body's intelligence, there's a deep knowing that feels solid rather than that mental like back and forth. And then it also aligns us with right opportunities. So when we begin to trust our body's signals instead of forcing logical choices, we naturally start to attract aligned opportunities that support our growth and our success. Isn't that so cool? So how many of you would love to have like more of the right opportunities show up for you? I know I would. So are you ready to find out how you are designed to make decisions? Let's do this. So if you have questions as we go through today, go ahead and put those in the chat. My lovely assistant, Chelsea, is here. And we will also do Q&A at the end, but she'll answer questions as we go through. So if anything comes up, don't hesitate to put that in the chat. If you pulled a chart from my website, go ahead and look for where it says inner authority. And next to that is your authority, how you best make decisions. Now, if you pulled a chart from somewhere else, it might say something different. So I'll kind of keep that in mind. But it'll say, if you have emotional authority, it'll say emotional on mine, or it'll say solar plexus a lot of times on a different chart. On my chart, if you have sacral authority, it'll say sacral. On other charts, it may say pure or gut. And for splenic authority, I don't think it's ever called anything else, maybe intuition, but splenic authority. Then there's self-projected authority, which can also be called G self. There's ego authority, which can also be called heart or willpower. And then there is mental authority. And sometimes that can be called no authority, which I don't love that. Or it can be called environmental authority. And then last but not least, we have lunar authority. So check that out, find out what authority you have. And then I am going to share my screen with you guys. And we're going to look at some different ones. Okay. Didn't mean to have all that up. Okay. So this first chart that I'm going to show you is someone with emotional authority. So there is a hierarchy to this, and when certain centers are defined, you're always going to probably be that authority. So what I mean by that, so this is the emotional center right here that I'm circling. So if you have your emotional center filled in, you have emotional authority. 53% of people have emotional authority. So if you have that center filled in, that's who you are. So this can be generators, it can be manifesting generators, projectors, and manifestors. The only people who never have emotional authority are reflectors. So with this authority, you're really meant to sleep on your decisions and take time to fill into your decisions before saying yes, especially for those bigger decisions in your life. You may like have this instinct or this gut feeling right when you are like hear something to make a decision about. However, you're really not meant to be spontaneous and jump into big decisions in the moment. Those decisions that are right for you are the ones that you really fall in love with over time, not just in that moment. And the really cool thing about this, even though you have to take time with your decisions, the universe will wait for you. As I told you earlier, my dad has emotional authority, and I'm just going to give you an example. I love this example because it so explains emotional authority. But we, right after my mom passed away, we were looking for a house for my dad to live in. He wanted to be back in their old neighborhood. And this was at a time when houses were like selling like hotcakes, like prices were going up every day, the interest rates were going up. And we found this perfect house in the perfect neighborhood, perfect price, perfect everything. And I said, well, what do you think? And he said, well, I need to sleep on it. And this is when I was just learning about all of human design. And my splenic authority was like, no, this isn't going to be here tomorrow. And but I didn't say that. I let my dad sleep on it. And he didn't call me for 3 days. 3 days later, he calls me back and he's like, okay, I want that house. And in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that house is gone. So I called the realtor and she goes, nope, the house is still available. And so it was the time, like the universe waits for you guys. So you do not have to rush. And even if that house would have been gone, it just would mean that that is not the right decision. So please feel into that. Trust that you do not have to hurry until you have clarity. You are not to make that decision. So for small decisions, that's something else. Like if somebody says, hey, do you want to go to dinner tonight? You don't have to sleep on that decision. Whatever feels healthy, just go with how you feel in the moment for those smaller decisions. But for the big decisions, a great practice for you might look like paying attention to that initial instinct and then checking back with yourself in a day or two to make sure that that instinct is still strong and the excitement about that still persists. And if the excitement is still alive, it's really healthy for you to move forward then. However, if that excitement is gone, the answer is a no. And so I got to ask you guys, have you ever made a decision in the moment, like from a high or a low, like you're high and you're like, oh my gosh, let's do that. Or you're like in a very low emotion and you go, I am never going to do that again. And then you wake up the next morning and you go, what did I just do? Like that happens with emotional authority. So it's most important that you really wait until the emotions kind of subside and you come to this place called emotional clarity or emotional neutrality, where you're just like, I know what I need to do. It's just this feeling of I know that I know that I know. Well, actually, it's not that feeling. Let me back up a minute. It's not a feeling that you know that you know that you know, because when you have emotional authority, you will never have 100% clarity. So everybody can take a sigh of relief right now because you'll never feel that 100%. When you feel 80%, that is where you need to make the decision. You'll never be 100%, but 80% is really good. So time and patience are essential. I can't say that more than enough. Stepping away from your decisions gives you perspective and helps bring you closer to the truth. And it always allows you to see the full picture for yourself. So I'm going to pull this up. Can you guys see that? I think this is so important. How to support someone with emotional authority. So if you have kids or your husband, number one, don't rush them or pressure them. Give them the time and the space that they need. My husband also has emotional authority, and I feel so bad because for so many years I just pressured him all the time. Now I give him space. However, honor their process and trust that the powerful depth and clarity that comes for them will come for them in time. Build time into collective decision making. So what I mean by that is when, like, let's say your family is deciding on a vacation, when to take it, where to go, make sure that you build in time for those with emotional authority to like have the time to feel it out. And maybe, put some ideas out there and say, hey, let's check back with each other in a couple of days. That always helps. And then when it comes to relationships, don't put any pressure on anyone to commit before they're ready. And I see this all the time, like with couples, like one is like, can make decisions in the moment, one needs to take time. And they're really hurt by the one who takes time because they don't understand that they really do need to take time. So let them take their time because they really do need that. And then these are great questions to ask yourself if you happen to have emotional authority. Do you take time with your own decisions? If you don't, I'm going to challenge you guys to take the next 30 days to really practice letting decision making go in the moment and really take time before you check back in with yourself. Play with that certainty and just remember, you're never going to be 100% sure, but 80% is great. So that is emotional authority. Next, we are going to talk about sacral authority. Oops, where'd that go? There we go. So, because this is a hierarchy, you're going to notice this person does not have their emotional center filled in, but they have their sacral center filled in. So if this one's not filled in, but this one is, you have sacral authority, and 33% of the population has this as their decision-making process. So you can already see for the first two, 53% and 33%, we're already at 86%. So just these two make up a big percentage of how people make their decisions. So this is only generators and manifesting generators because only they have the sacral center filled in. And for you guys, you make decisions in the moment. Like you don't have to sleep on it. Even the big decisions in life, your gut is just going to leap. And so really tune in to where your gut sits. And if it is like a full body, yes. And it's like your gut lifts, you lean in, you feel this leap of like, oh my gosh, I need to do that. It's this full body yes is a yes. If you get a or a nothing, that is a no. Or a lowering down can also be a no. And it comes out as very guttural. Like you'll get this for a yes or an for a no. And my kids, before I knew this, both of our kids are generators. And they would always say all the time. And it used to drive me crazy because I don't say it that much because I'm not guttural like that. And now I understand why. You really do get that sense. So if you're an emotional decision maker and your gut is also filled in, you are also going to get this. And this will be really great for you in making the smaller decisions. So just keep that in mind as well. Now, if you don't get an answer or it is a no, it just means no in the moment. It doesn't always mean a no forever. It might just be a no, not now, not a no, not forever. So some things need to come up again and again for you to be able to really answer that. And so over time, some of those answers that are a no now may change into a yes later. So just keep that in mind. It is always best for you to get yes, no questions from people. So when people are asking you questions, you really will struggle with multiple choice or open-ended questions. So it's really good to teach people to ask you yes, no questions because that allows you to get that gut response. Now, supporting people with sacral authority. Number one, ask them yes, no questions. Number two, don't ask them to explain their decisions because their decisions And most everybody, when we come to a decision in our body, there is no logic to it. And there are sometimes no words to it. And especially with the gut response, you're not always going to have words to explain why you decided that decision. It's just an internal inner knowing. And I always say that these these places where we make decisions in our bodies are really tied to our higher self, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. But that is like a high bird's eye view of what's going on in the world. So it's very much tied to that. Our brains are very much internal inside of us and does not have that high perspective. So this is why when we make decisions from where we're supposed to make decisions, sometimes it's not logical and they don't make sense because we don't have the bird's eye view, if that makes sense. Also encourage people with sacral authority to pursue decisions that are aligned with their yes response. And the reason for that is we all second guess ourselves because we're so used to making decisions in our minds that we'll get that gut response and then we'll go, yeah, but maybe I need to. If your partner or somebody is making that yes from their gut, encourage them to go with their gut and really stay in alignment with their gut. And if they're unsure or they're getting in their heads, ask them specific yes, no questions to really help them get back into their body again to make those decisions. So questions that are great for you if you have sacral authority. Do you feel connected to your gut feeling? Most of my clients are not when they first hear this. And so when I was teaching my kids this about themselves, I'm like, okay, for the next 30 days, I want you to ask yourself yes, no questions and ask your husband to ask you yes, no questions and really practice listening into your gut. Are you getting that rising up? Are you getting that leaning in? Or is it leaning back or lowering down? And it'll really tell you. All right. We're going to move on to splenic. So this is me and this is Chelsea. So if you don't have the emotional center filled in or the sacral center filled in, but you have the splenic center filled in, you are splenic authority. And splenic authority makes up about 9% of the population. So from those three, this makes up the super majority. The rest of you are a little rarer, and that's awesome. But this can only be for manifestors and projectors because the sacral center is not filled in. And we're really meant to make decisions in the moment based on intuition. And often it's this knowing where it's this knowingness. We don't know where that decision is going to take us. That's the bizarre thing about splenic authority. We just know that we know that we know. It's this internal knowing. And clarity only comes in the present moment. Like it only comes in the now. And we can tell when we're trying to make a decision from our head because there'll be so much confusion. But when we get an intuitive hit, there's so much clarity around that decision, whether it is right for us or not. Our minds never give us that clarity. And instinct is really interesting because it can show up in different people in different ways. For me, I just get this like, oh my gosh, I know what I need to do. Like it's kind of this exciting rush inside of me. It's almost like a gut response, I would say, but it's like not in my gut. It's just, I just know what I need to do. For some people, it's like a tingle in their body. Like I'm not kidding. My right leg tingles when things are like right for me, or I'm getting an intuitive hit. It's like my right leg tingles. I know that sounds really strange, but other people will get this. Some people will feel like butterflies. Some people will get a bad taste in their mouth, especially if taste is their cognition. Some people just get an icky feeling or a right feeling. So it can show up a lot of different ways. But again, there's no words. So when I know something, I just know it. I can't explain it. And I've had to say to my husband, I can even remember saying this when we were first married. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm supposed to do this. I just know I'm supposed to do this. Will you trust me? And from there on, believe it or not, he did. So I'm still married to him 40 years later. So that helps. So let's look at how to support somebody with splenic authority. So to support people with splenic authority, give them plenty of space to be in their own energy and connect to their own energy rather than bombarding them with your feelings about the decision. So it is really good for people because people with splenic authority tend to have a lot of openness in their chart. They're picking up energy from you and other people. And sometimes we need to separate ourselves from other people's energy before we get clarity and before our intuition kicks in. So give them lots of space, especially physical space. Honor their innate sensitivity and ask if they need time and space. Pay attention to which practices help them connect more deeply to their intuition and create more opportunities for them. I like to go for a walk. I like to get out in nature. That's how I really tie back into my intuition. And if they're open to conversation, great. But notice when they're speaking from their intuition and when they're speaking from their heads, making more mentally driven decisions. And then resist asking them to explain how they know what they know, because we just do. And then let them know how much their clear and immediate knowing through their intuition is valued and appreciated by you. Because especially when someone's just getting in touch with their intuition, it's so confusing. We're always second guessing ourselves. We're always going back into our heads because intuition is so quiet and so kind of non-specific. It shows up in different ways for us. It takes a little bit longer to tap into trusting our intuition. So, and questions you can ask yourself: do you feel connected with your intuition, or do you talk yourself out of trusting it? So for this practice, I would really give yourself a lot of small decisions over the next 30 days, not big decisions. Try to really stay in tune with what your intuition is saying for those smaller things. Like if somebody says, hey, do you want to go to a movie tonight? Tap into your intuition and see if you've got the energy for that or you don't have the energy for that. That will really help you over 30 days just to kind of practice working with that intuition, and then give yourself bigger decisions and then bigger and then bigger. And then pretty soon you're like, oh my gosh, and you'll love it, because once you figure it out, it's like, I know exactly what I need to do in the moment. And if you don't get an intuitive hit at all, it just means it's not the right time to make that decision. So that is splenic authority. Moving on to self-projected authority. We've got Laurie on today. All right. Self-projected, talk it out. So if your emotional center is not filled in, your sacral, your splenic, but your identity center, this little diamond right here, is filled in, then you have what's called G center or self-projected authority. This is 2.5% of the population, and this is projectors only. So you guys are designed to find clarity by talking decisions out with people that you trust. The most direct and powerful way to connect to your inner knowing is to give it your voice. It's by talking through decisions and really listening in to what you say and how you feel when you say it. That's when your decisions become very clear. This is so important. You're not looking, when you're talking it out with somebody, you really need to teach them that you're not looking for their opinion. You're not looking for their advice. You're simply wanting to hear your own voice. And so these people need to be like your sounding boards. It's really also important to be intentional about who you share things with. And to find those people that will ask you great questions, because a lot of times you need your answers that are correct for you to be pulled out of you. And so if these are people that can ask you great questions, all the better. But when you're verbally processing, it's important that you stay out of your mind and just kind of let the words flow. It's almost like channeling. You just like kind of open up your mouth and see what flies out of it. Because if you think about what you're going to say, that will not help you make decisions. But if you just kind of like open it up and just start talking, you will feel your voice change. Like when it's a decision that's right for you, you almost kind of get excited when you're talking about it. It's almost like the mood changes, the feeling changes, something changes. And because this is tied to the identity center, it's almost like when you start talking about things, your decisions come from this place of your strong identity. So identity is also about direction. And so when you feel like what you're talking about is leading you in the right direction, then it's probably a yes. Or if it makes you happy, it might be then it's probably the right decision. It's not, it might be, it probably is the right decision if it makes you happy. Or if it helps you feel very creatively expressed, because this is also the center for creativity, that's probably a yes as well. So, or if it makes you feel the most yourself, because it's tied to your identity. When you start talking and it feels like, oh, this feels like me, you probably catch yourself saying that if you're a self-projected projector. This feels so like me. That is a yes for you. So, when a decision's right for you, you may feel this subtle knowing when you say it out loud. It's important not to rationalize it, but just to feel into it, especially in your chest area, because that's where the identity center is. And when a decision's not right for you, your voice may sound confused or unclear. It won't feel right in your body. Just remember, your voice is a powerful tool, and it really helps you understand your inner knowing. So how to support someone, share, I feel like you came on at the right time. How to support someone that you know with self-projected authority. Serve as a non-judgmental sounding board and listen attentively. And again, asking great questions to help pull out their truth rather than offering unsolicited advice or opinions, because that's really not what they're looking for. And that can be really frustrating, true, to a self-projected projector when people are offering advice or opinions. But if you don't teach us that, we don't know that because we don't understand. 2.5% of you have this. That's not a big majority. And so we think you're talking about it because you want our advice or our opinion, but that is not what you're looking for. Ask them what would be most supportive in the moment and honor that, whether it be to listen or whether to give them space, because sometimes they just need to get in their own space. Again, they probably have a lot of centers that are open, and they sometimes may need to get away and get out of other people's energy before they can really get clarity. Great questions would be around whether a decision will bring them happiness or whether it'll make them feel like themselves. This is covered up, or feel seen. That's another one. Also, if you live with a self-projected projector, it's really great for you to take care of your own energy, because when your energy is clear and your energy is good, it allows them to feel good in their decision making as well. And remind them of the power of their voice. Allow them the opportunity to use it and to share it. And then last but not least, great question to ask yourself if you have self-projected authority. Have you tried talking things out when making a decision? If not, it's a great time to do that. Your voice is powerful and it will lead you in the right direction. Awesome. Okay, we've got three more. Ego or heart authority. Come on. Okay. This is the rarest of them all. So, when your emotional, sacral, splenic identity not filled in, but your heart center is, you have ego or heart authority. It's 0.5% of the population has this. So it's even less than reflectors who have lunar authority. It's the rarest. So this is only manifestors and projectors. And you're really meant to be guided by your hearts or your will when making decisions. So the right decisions for you are the ones that your heart is pulling you towards, the ones that you feel motivated by, because this is the center for motivation and willpower. So if you're motivated by a decision, then that is 100% a yes for you. When your heart is in it, you literally can do anything that you set your mind to. Like, remember, this is not about your mind, but when your heart is in it, you will have the power and the willpower to do it. And when it's not, you're going to feel this lack of commitment. So when you feel a lack of commitment over a decision, that is not the right decision for you. It's also important for you to feel that your powerful energy will be appreciated by others. It will be valued by others. It'll be taken care. You'll be taken care of in your decisions. Being selfish in this way is particularly healthy for you. So, hear my heart authority people. You really do need to be selfish because this is all about personal motivation. You are only to say yes to things that you are personally motivated by. You are not here to be a people pleaser. It's super hard on your heart when you are. And it really is surrounded by your heart health. So be selfish. You are allowed to be selfish because in being selfish, you will affect all the people around you in a very positive way. So selfishness is good for you. It is important to check in with yourself, whether you truly have the willpower to do something, whether you feel motivated to commit your precious energy, because again, look how open these people are down below, especially. And they could only have their heart center and throat center filled in, or their heart center and identity center filled in. So a lot of times they're very open. And because of this, it's really important for them to only make decisions when they are fully rested. If they're tired, if they're worn out, if they are sick, it is not a good time to make a decision. It's way better for you to make a decision when your energy is good. And you will have ebbs and flows in your energy. So it's really important to wait until your energy is flowing and not ebbing. And pay attention to what you say as well, because if you're saying, I want, or I have, or I will, especially for manifestors, I want that. I can see you laughing, Chelsea. Your niece says, I want. And so that is really good for her. And that's a really great indication that that is a yes. So, how do you support people who have ego or heart authority? Appreciate how much loyalty and heart they bring to whatever they do and remind them of their power. When they commit to something from a really that true space of commitment and wanting to do something, they're going to be in it for the long haul. Their yes is a yes, and they're going to commit to you and everybody else when they make that decision. Check in with them to make sure that they feel truly motivated to make something happen and remind them that them of the power of following their heart. If their heart's not in it, they're not going to commit. And that can be really sad for everybody involved. Do not try and convince them of something that they're half-hearted about. Trust when their heart is fully in it that everyone benefits, and when it's not, they should move on. And this has a lot to do with their heart health, you guys. So if you're pressuring somebody who has heart authority or ego authority into doing something that they don't want to do, it's hard on their health. Be that sounding board for them if they need to verbally process. And then honor when they need space and time to be alone in their own energy, because they do need to be energized in order to make decisions. So if you have heart authority, can you sense when your heart is pulling you towards something? If you haven't really practiced with this, it's kind of like splenic authority. You kind of have to feel into it to really understand it. So give yourself 30 days and start practicing like small decisions to see if your heart's in it or not. That's heart authority. Okay, now we're going to move on to mental authority. And mental authority is about 1% of the population. However, I know so many people who have mental authority. My mom was one of them. And so again, if your emotional center is not filled, sacral, splenic, identity, heart, but your ajna, your mind center is filled in, you have mental authority. And everybody with mental authority has nothing filled in below their throat, always. So these people are very open energetically and they pick up a lot of other people's energy. These are projectors only. And people with a mental authority, it's also called environmental authority. You really have this process-based decision-making process, and you're really meant to go through a process of talking things out in the right space with the right people. So self-projected, it's with the right people, but mental authority or environmental authority, it's the right spaces that feel good to you with the right people that also feel good with you. You're really meant to be patient with your decisions, almost like an emotional authority person. You're not really to make spontaneous decisions. Clarity for you will come over time. You can be deeply sensitive to your physical space and to people that are in that space because you are practically a reflector. I mean, some mental authority people will have their head center filled in too, but most of them just have these two centers filled in, the ajna and the throat. And so you can be very sensitive to your space. And if you're in a space that doesn't feel good, you're not going to be able to like make a decision. It'll feel like chaos in your head. So and like the self-projected projector, it's really important to talk things out and not get responses or input or feedback from other people, but tell people that I just need a sounding board. I just need to hear my own voice. And also like the self-projected projector, you're not going to think about things. You're going to just kind of open up your mouth and start talking. And again, it's almost like channeling. And when you hear your own voice, when the words feel right to you and the space feels right to you, you'll start to gain clarity over time on what you need to do. But let the words flow. Don't think, just talk. And you might be surprised by the clarity that your own voice gives you and what naturally comes through when you just start talking. Self-projected projectors are like that too. And when decisions feel right, you may have this feeling of knowing again that cannot be explained. It's not logical. Even though it is the ajna center where logic comes from, that you're making this decision from, it's logic that comes in from your higher self. It's not logic that was programmed in there. And that's why it's so important to just open up and start talking and not to think about what you're going to say, but just start talking. And what's really important is you need to be in a lot of different spaces with a lot of different people over time to really get your clarity. So if you're just having one discussion with one person in a space that feels good to you, you may not get full clarity there. You may need to like talk it out in different spaces before you really get the sign that, oh yeah, I need to do that, or nope, I don't need to do that. A decision's often wrong when you rush into it, and if it feels wrong when you say it out loud, or if you don't feel valued in the opportunity, or if you're processing in a space that doesn't feel good with people that don't feel good, or if people are pressuring you or trying to get you to rationalize your decisions, you'll just know that you know that you know when it's time to make that decision. So with mental authority, how do you support somebody with mental authority? Serve as that non-judgmental sounding board and really listen attentively. It's great for you to ask those questions that really help pull out their truth rather than offering advice or opinions. Support their need to talk it out. Secondly, ask them what would be supportive. Like, do you need time to just like be in your own space right now? Or is it a good time to like talk it out? Sometimes they just need to be in their own space for a little while. And don't take it personally. Any of these, don't take it personally if they need time alone. It's not about you. It's really about them cleansing their energy so that they can get clarity. Again, take good care of your own energy, because when you are honoring your own energy, you're honoring how sensitive they are to that energy. And clear energy helps them get clarity. Honor their sensitivity to spaces. Get curious about what spaces feel best to them. And I know Chelsea, just going on a walk with your husband gives him that great space to get clarity around his decisions. And then remind them of the power of their voice and create opportunities for them to use their voice and to share it. So if you have mental authority, do you talk out your decisions? And are you really cognizant of the space? Does it feel good? And do the people around you feel good? And are they honoring you for being a sounding board instead of someone who always has an opinion or is offering advice? That's going to be really important. Okay, mental authority. We're going to move on to the last one, and that is lunar authority. These are our reflectors. Look, they got nothing. They got no centers filled in at all. These people are very rare. They only make up 1% of the population. These people are so important because they're like the canary in the coal mine. They are sampling and sensing energy, and they know things that other people don't necessarily pick up on. They know when communities are in a good place or a bad place, or committees or families or work environments. They are here to kind of test things out and give us direction. So reflectors only have lunar authority. It is a lot like mental authority. They're meant to go through a process of talking things out in the right spaces with the right people. And for big decisions, over a lunar cycle. It's 28 days, y'all. They are not here to make quick decisions at all, especially for those big things in their life, like entering into relationships or moving to a new city or a new house or changing careers. They really need those 28 days. Because in those 28 days, we go through transits as we move, as the moon moves around the planet. And so they're going to feel a different way today than they feel tomorrow about something. And they're going to feel differently in different environments with different people. And so they really don't get clarity at all in the moment. They get clarity over time when they're exposed to different places with different people, and as we go through different transits. And so waiting for clarity, it's really healthy for them to spend time in spaces that feel good and talk things out, talk their decisions out with people that they trust. And again, they need people who are sounding boards, not people that are going to give them advice or opinions. Man, I have a reflector in my other organization. And when I found this out, I'm like, I'm so sorry. I have been giving you my opinion all along, and that's not what you were looking for. I really didn't understand it, but it does make a difference. And so over those 28 days, they're going to feel different every single day. But around day 28, they'll start to gain this clarity of what is right for them. And right decisions are not necessarily, the ones that feel right in the moment. For small decisions, they should just go with their feeling in that moment. Like if they're going out for dinner, what they're going to eat for dinner that night. But for those bigger decisions, it's really what they start to fall in love with over that 28-day process. And yeah, they'll just feel this clarity, this calmness when it's time to make that decision. Sometimes, especially for the bigger ones, they might get through a 28-day cycle and still not know. And it's going to be important for them to take another 28-day cycle, especially when it comes to marriage or children or things like that. It may take more than a month. It may take several cycles before they become really clear on their decisions. So, how to support somebody with lunar authority? Serve as that non-judgmental sounding board, asking questions to pull out their truth, really not pressuring them, even if it's been 2 weeks, not to pressure them, even if it's been 28 days, not to pressure them. Although you can kind of sense if they're starting to go into their head, make sure that they're not making this decision from their head. That's going to be important. Ask if they need to talk it out or if they need time alone to process. Don't take it personally. Again, if they don't want to talk it out, take good care of your energy like all the others that are really open. And then honor their sensitivity to space and always check in with them to make sure that their space feels good to them. Um, like when you go to a restaurant with somebody with Lunar Authority, it's good to say, does this feel good to you? And if not, go to a different restaurant. I know it sounds strange, but it really creates this angst, anxiety, all kinds of things when spaces don't feel good to them. And don't pressure them to make decisions quickly. Honor their pace and their process. And their pace and process are vitally different than 99% of the people. So that's really important. So if you are a reflector, do you take time with your decisions? And really notice the difference when you do take time with those decisions. All right. So that's all 7. Hey, Chelsea, you want to join me and we'll do a little Q&A? I know you've been answering a lot.
Yes. Hi,
Or
everybody.
even comments. I would love to hear your comments too.
The comments. We do have a question on emotional authority. Can you unscreen share? Or are you going to do more? Then people see your
Oh,
face better. There you go. How does emotional authority know that they are at an 80% to a yes or no decision? How do they know that?
so ask yourself, does this feel right? I mean, it's really just gauging, do I feel closer to a full body yes than I do to a full body no? That will really kind of help you gauge that. And I would almost say 70 to 80%. You're never going to feel completely clear. I think that's the main thing. I don't think you can really measure it like, oh, am I feeling 80% clear right now? But you can feel a sense of clarity, like I'm just about there. Like I'm pretty sure I'm feeling still good about this and it's been a day or two and I'm still excited about this idea, then you know.
And it's kind of a settling, right?
It's a
I think that's
settling
what
point.
Robin said. Robin said, I can't, I invited our friend Robin on this trip, and I know this about her. And I said, I know you got to like wait until your emotions are settled, right? And she's like, yeah, I got to wait until like the high of the FOMO that makes me want to go on this is gone. And I was like, oh, okay. Like she was saying, like the emotional high of the moment that she's being asked. And then like she said, it kind of like settles
Yeah.
for her. So I was like, all right, well, let me know how many business days that is. And she, I think, what did it, was it last week that I threw this out there? And I think today she was like, okay, I'm a go. And I was like, oh my gosh.
It may take a week, it may take a month. It can take you, it can
Mhm.
take you a while for those bigger decisions. Yes.
Yeah, Laurie had said about this. This is her spouse, her husband, Todd. And she had said that this can be painful to
It is painful. I'm married to one too.
Right, right,
Yeah.
right. It's painful to be a friend. I was like, can you just say yes? It's fine. And I knew she would say yes. I just was like, okay, my splenic already knew it was happening. So I'm like, whatever. Like I'm here waiting for you to just know that the answer is already yes. We were talking in the chat about the different people, what everyone is. Wendy is a sacral. Laurie is a self-projected. Um, let's see. I was saying I'm a splenic, and I feel it like right here between my ribs, and like it's in my. I don't think that's your actual stomach. I say like in my stomach, but I don't actually think that's where your stomach is. But I feel like it's my stomach. Um, let's see. Cher was talking about how she's trying to work on not offering unsolicited advice, which I believe she's a generator. We don't quite know what Cher's authority is yet. Do you know what her authority is?
Hers is her gut.
So she's sacral. She's that instant gut, so she instantly knows probably the answer for her clients. Right. So we are talking about that, how she's learning to not give them this unsolicited advice and let them be more of a advocate to their process.
Yeah.
Let's see. She was saying I frustrate people with my unsolicited advice, which she probably did. She have the waited to be invited in thing as well?
Respond.
Respond, right? So a generator to respond, and they didn't invite you in to give them any advice.
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes people are good with it, but sometimes, occasionally, I can feel where it's not what they wanted. I'm learning. It's about that listening to that intuition and that gut. And then also in a call with my coach mentor, she had said something, and I was like, I think, especially for um, neurodiverse individuals,
Mhm.
it can be too much for
Mm,
to get that unsolicited advice. And so they like pull back and they kind of like tune you out at that point. And I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
can see that resonated for me.
yeah.
Well, I think they shut down because they feel like, as somebody who, you know, I go into this, who asked you? Like literally nobody asked you. You're not listening. You're obviously not listening to me. And then walls up, bye. See you later. Like I can feel like I've had those, right? Those conversations before. Um,
Mhm. And I
let's
could tell at the end of the conversation that that's where it was. So then the
Mhm.
next time I met with that client, I started off by apologizing
Mm,
and to like reset the space and everything and acknowledging about what I had done and how I had made it about me and not about her. And she really was, it was, I think it was a game changer and shifted, but I do feel like we never got as deep as we could have possibly gotten because I am, I like to use my stories too much.
Mm,
mm,
yeah.
mm.
So I'll figure that out. It's all a work in process.
Well, I think this is learning.
Yeah, the webinar we did before is strategy. And if you didn't get a chance to watch that, I would really go back and watch that because your strategy makes all the difference in the world, whether people can hear you or not. That's a big one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Then in the chat, I just said how ego is my niece, which is rare, of course. Of course, she's rare. But we were on a road trip with my sibling, like, well, her dad and wife and the two siblings, and we're in the middle of absolute nowhere on the reservation in Arizona, and we're pulling up charts as like Wi-Fi would allow. And we pull hers up and it says manifest our ego. I said, I've never even heard of this. I screenshot it, I sent it to Stacy. She's like, she's so rare. No joke. We know she is. Got that one. But it was insane because we had just gotten back in the car from being on the side of a cliff in the middle of nowhere on this reservation. And she had all of her birthday money, like hundreds of dollars that we didn't even know she brought, but she did. Hundreds of dollars wadded into her little crossbody bag. She's 6, and she whipped it all out on the side of a cliff in the middle of the desert. And she was like, I want that bracelet with the butterfly and I want those purple earrings. And we were like, Brinley, let's like walk all 10 vendors and we'll come back. And she's like, So she entertained us. We get all the way down to the bottom, her mom and I, the guys are in the car. And she goes, okay, now I'm going to go buy those earrings. Literally spins on a dime, marches back up the mountain, back up to the top vendor, whips out her 20, hands it to the woman. She was like, I'm not an idiot. I understand how money works. Yes, I know I need to give her another 20. Swap the earrings with this 90-year-old woman, marched to the car and got in the car. And then she proceeded to tell us how we were all like, we're hungry. What should we eat? She goes, I want steak. And we were like, should we stop here? Should we stop there? She's like, I said, I want steak. We're still talking, kind of ignoring her. And she goes, I just want steak. It's not texting you about this.
Yeah. Yep. That's how they feel. They just move right into it. That's great.
And now, I mean, it frustrates her dad, but it's hysterical to learn from you and watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Any other questions out there?
That is it. That
My
is
God,
it.
done in an hour. So here's what I would love. I know some people are going to be watching this later. I just get excited to hear what you guys are learning and how this 30-day process, because I am going to challenge you guys, all of you, to this 30-day process of really tapping in to your own personal authority and start making decisions from there. And I didn't even talk about this, but we're really kind of moving away from other people making decisions for us, like the government, your parents. Like your parents are here to help you guide your decisions until you're an adult. But once you're an adult, their authority isn't your authority anymore. And so it's really important to step into your sovereignty as things change. It's going to be more and more and more important. I'm actually going to do a blog on how things are changing here soon, because in the next couple of years, you're going to see a lot of changes out in the world. And it's going to be super significant that you really tap into your authority and you really understand it. So follow me on Instagram if you're not, at My Human Design Hub, and just give me some updates on like what's happening, what's going on. I would love that. And if you loved this and would like to explore different things with me, I do have some different offers. I'm actually going to share my screen and share a QR code. If you have never ever done an initial appointment with me, it's called an elemental blueprint, understanding your defined open centers and how your energy works. This QR code will lead you to a special reading that's $50 off my readings. And if you have friends who you're like, oh, you really need to like learn more about your authority and learn more about what you're doing, send them here. They can also use this QR code, so pass it on. I will honor it for as long as that video is up on my website, you guys. Okay. And I think Chelsea's putting the link in the comments as well. I also do a session called Unlocking Your Genetic Code. Did you guys know that we're all born with certain shadows and that we're here to really work through those shadows? We're not here to dodge them. We're not here to ignore them, but we're here to like transform them. And when we transform them, we expose the gifts that we came here to give the world. And you actually have 11 different keys that are pretty insignificant in your chart. And through working through those 11 different shadows, you can literally change your life. Create more flow, more ease, grace, and joy, all the things. One of my favorites is Career by Design. I think Wendy did that one. It's really helpful to understand certain gates and how they give you clues into how you're designed to work, who you're designed to work with, all the things. And then I also have a hub now, and I'm very excited about my hub. It's a community that's going to continue to grow. If you love webinars, we do a monthly webinar in there. There's all kinds of training in there that I've done, tools. My 40 years in leading an organization and helping people goal set, I have all kinds of tools in there to support people with that as well. And it's a community where you can have conversations and learn about things. It's only $22 a month to have access to all of that. So Chelsea, any thoughts on any of those that you'd love to share?
I love all of them.
How has this made a difference for you?
Yeah, it's honestly, it's completely changed. It's completely changed what I do as far as my career. I think that honestly, I think like God, universe, whatever was already guiding me there. And then I think that learning everything with you made it such a blind, flashing obvious that like what I was previously doing, it just like energetically wasn't aligning for me very well, because of the amount of work that it was taking for me as a projector. I think that learning I was my authority, like learning that I'm splenic, I would know something and then I would go to the world and be like, oh, what do you think? What do you think? Like put my life up for a committee vote essentially. And that was so stupid to do because they didn't get the splenic hit that I got, right? So it doesn't make sense to them because it's impossible to make sense, because it actually doesn't make sense at all. Because a splenic person, nothing about it makes sense. You just have to chase it. And the day that you said to me, well, what if you had chased, you said it to me sitting in Starbucks. It was the month of May, almost 2 years ago. And you said, what if you had chased all the whispers all along? And I said, well, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. And that's because I would have been on a trip with a bunch of other people. I would not have been sitting there with you if I would have followed those whispers, back in the day. And then I think that for Kobe and I, my husband, she did a reading also with my husband. And he, like, when he agrees with something, he latches onto it so quick. So you just created we have a marriage episode that we recorded recently, and people were like DMing me like crazy, like, you guys are really like this all the time, like just like "Meh, even killed." And I'm like, yeah, we really are. But I think it's human design where we both settled into our designs. We both know we're projectors. We work in spurts. We need our alone time. He needs way more of it than I do, honoring that. He needs to walk it out. He doesn't need me to tell him anything. He just needs me to be there in the right place at the right time to like ask him the right questions. Um, and then, I think I always instantly know what he needs to do, but then shutting up until he figures it out for himself and talks it out it's just that creates so much peace and ease in your marriage, right? Like I relieved so much pressure off of him, not being like, dude, I asked you 30 seconds ago, like, what's the answer? Come on, man. Oh, he doesn't know it yet. Cool. Like now I understand that. And then again, like the career by design appointment is my favorite because it uncovered all the reasons why my little girl dream was my little girl dream and like why I should do it and why it was so obvious. And then I love the HD hub, not just because I got to do the back office stuff of like putting it together, all of her brilliance and putting it in there. But I just think it's beautiful community that as you have that capacity and the bandwidth to like eat a little bit more of the bites of human design, then you can, and it's right there at your fingertips. I love it all.
I love it all. Human design has changed my life and so many others. So thank you guys for tuning in today. Again, follow me on Instagram, share what's happening. I love to get the feedback. So thank you guys for coming on today. Bye-bye.